Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Well, as Tim continues to daydream about retirement now, just several weeks away, we welcome you in on this pretty sunny Tuesday afternoon out there. Got some clouds rolling in, but overall dry skies across at least the I-95 corridor this afternoon. So looking pretty good for any outdoor plans you have either this afternoon or this evening, right, guys? Welcome in Tim and Lee Southwick as
I'm
well
back.
here.
I'm crashing your party again.
I love it when you crash our party, and I love it when when Ross takes the helm. And I especially love it when the weather cooperates with the forecast. So what do you think, gang? Just a couple isolated showers way out toward I-75 late today?
Yeah, this is the best day to get outside. As Ross was saying, I think, taking the kids to the park, walking the dog outside if you're trying to get outside, because it's just a few isolated showers closer to I-75 corridor, mainly west of 301. And so with our temperatures actually seasonal, because as you all know, we have had many days warmer than normal. Enjoy these seasonal temperatures without having to worry about getting rained on. We know we want the rain, but if there's no rain, at least the temperatures are cooperating for us to get outside.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's sort of because it's been so consistently warm, sort of forgot that, oh yeah, this is how April is supposed to be as we finish it up. Lower dew points. Gosh, you could certainly feel that today. And of course the easterly wind helping us with the temps. Speaking of, Ross, where do we rank? Do you know, generally speaking, this
temperature wise?
Yeah.
I haven't looked since I came back from my Easter vacation.
I mean, warmer than average. I think you're tracking that early.
Yeah, cool. Because that first week of April was we were the top spot for a little bit.
Right.
Then I think we were in the top 3. It has come down quite a bit, but yeah, I mean, it's been warm and very dry.
And then Saturday was just one day off the record.
Yes, because we hit
Sunday.
93 degrees.
Sunday.
Right? Sunday. Right.
93. So yeah, we can. I was trying to look it up here for you, Ross, too, as you go through the forecast, see if I can see anything from NWS about where we rank now.
So there's Wednesday. It looks pretty similar to today, right? Maybe just a little more moisture. Maybe winds a little more east-southeast versus east.
Yeah, a slight uptick in the humidity, but I think perhaps a less cloud cover overall, a little bit more sunshine out there. So we'll kind of get to your forecast tomorrow and kind of the rest of the week, but at least here for tonight, I did update this for you, Tim.
I love it. The ladies are playing.
Yes, last night we talked about District 2 6A softball championships. Today, it's District 1 7A. So first up, you got, let me see if I can get this right. It's the Flagler and Palm Coast High School Bulldogs versus Atlantic Coast. And then Sandalwood at Creekside Knights.
Oh, Creekside. Okay, I got to be honest. I couldn't place Creekside. Okay.
And both of these games start at 7 p.m. here tonight.
Okay. So obviously playing ball looks great for both, as far as weather anyhow, for both players and fans and adults and parents.
Yeah, really, the parents, the supportive fans.
Yeah. And then tomorrow morning, I mean, this is, enjoy it, folks, because about a month from now, we're not going to see too many inland lows in the 50s.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you can see the airport drop below the 60-degree mark.
So a nice, cool start to tomorrow morning, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
This is why I'm here.
Wow.
All right. So yesterday we talked about some of the updates that the National Hurricane Center is making for 2025. And today we're going to keep talking about those updates because this one has to do with potential tropical cyclones. And so just a quick refresher on what a potential tropical cyclone is, because it's fairly new, guys, right? 2017 is when they started issuing these, the National Hurricane Center. But this is a tropical system that is not yet a tropical storm or a hurricane, but it has the potential to become one and make impacts to land, whether it's landfall or even just sideswiping land and creating those impacts there in the form of wind, rain. So they issue these potential tropical cyclones before it has actually strengthened because we have more rapid strengthening now. So this gives you that heads up. Now, what they have done since 2017 is allow these to be issued 48 hours in advance. But this year, guys, they're going to make it 72 hours in advance because they're becoming more confident. They will issue these when there is high confidence of significant wind or storm surge impacts. 72 hours in advance, they can issue this to give just more of a heads up. As we all know, you can never give someone enough heads up to start making plans and preparing.
So can I put perspective on this? Because obviously 2017 means many decades when we did not have this. And the real significance for us old timers is that the National Hurricane Center would not officially put out any cone until they had actually called it at least a tropical depression. And very often they'd wait until it would be called a storm. And there were many instances, and I'm talking even back in the late 80s and 90s, as primitive as it was back then, to where we could see something just off our East Coast or Gulf, and we would talk about it, but because, as you know, although we like to share information with folks, we don't like to overhype things. And so there'd be a hesitancy to say, hey, this is going to be named da-da-da-da-da-da, especially because the Hurricane Center would refuse to put a cone out until it actually became a tropical depression or storm. And as Lee mentioned, sometimes that's not a big deal if it's well out over the Atlantic, or you think it's going to be days before it gets to land, or it's going to take a long time to develop. But as we saw last year, and as we've seen with many rapid developers, we've seen these things go from not even a tropical depression, so that would have been years where there wasn't a cone, to within a day and a half, it's a major hurricane, right? So glad that they started this in 2017, and not a surprise because we've seen the accuracy increase, but so glad now they're taking this to 3 days out. So just to be clear, for those who have just joined us, there's not a cyclone out there right now.
I should have put like a disclaimer on this graphic that said not right now.
But I get it. But then what that means is, for you fellow forecasters out there, you may see something that maybe doesn't look like much. So think about it, 3 days out. 3 days out means it might not look like hardly anything at all. We're just seeing it on computer models, and then but they may put out a cone. So I love it.
And of course, you know, our job as your local weather team and your local forecasters, we're going to tell you about those impacts, whether they name it or not. But as we know, you can just never have too much messaging. And we know you all who are watching this right now, you stay informed, so you know that we'll keep you updated. But at least with a cone, it draws more attention. More people start paying attention to it. So yes, now that's the big thing. They felt like they were confident enough with enough accuracy over the past couple of years that they could extend this out to now 72 hours in advance. So I feel like we shouldn't have this up in case anyone is tuning in right now. But that graphic, that is obviously an old graphic. But as you can see, it wasn't a named storm, but it was heading for the Leeward Islands, Cuba, and then Florida. And so that's why they were putting a cone on it, because it was within 48 hours of impacting the islands and Cuba. And so now we'll have even more of a heads up, 72 hours. So I like it personally.
And then it sort of, doesn't it support, aren't they going to, are they going to start putting out watches as much as 60 hours in advance or something similar to that? Maybe not quite.
I thought it was other 48.
Still 48. Okay, there's some kind of wind advisory that I thought they're going to extend to 60 hours.
Okay.
I don't want to confuse things, but
No, I can look that up.
okay, yeah, there's something they're going to do 60 hours out, and maybe we can talk about that sometime over the week. That you're right, it's probably not the watches or warnings, but then to me that makes sense if then they're going to take it from 48 to 72 as far as, you know, the PTC.
And, you know, just other things that I do know they're changing. So the cone itself in 2025 will be 3 to 5% smaller, thinner than last year. Just shows more accuracy. So I think that helps with why they're feeling confident in their forecast, because they are getting a bit more accurate with those track forecasts. And so now you can issue it 72 hours in advance as well. The other thing, though, which ties it all in, is, of course, when you have a smaller cone, more people think, oh, I'm not under the cone. So that, as we talked about yesterday, that's why now they have their experimental cone, which is getting smaller, which is good because it means our forecast track is getting better, but that only shows where the center of the storm is going to be, the eye of the hurricane. And so remember, with these experimental cones, they're also going to start showing all of the watches and warnings on the cone for inland places too, to help also promote that the impacts extend well beyond the cone, well beyond the center. So guys, it's positive that we are getting more advanced warning, where it's positive that we have these thinner cones. We just have to make sure the messaging is still there, that people are still at risk.
I just snapped. And you can check me on this later, maybe make a graphic at some point. It's their 64 knot, which is the hurricane wind, that they're going, whereas they have, in the past, they've only forecast where that will be, the 64 knot wind graphic, or radius, the wind radius, that's what I'm looking at.
Oh, yes.
That used to only go out 48 hours. They're going to take that out, I think, to 60 hours. So that would support if they're going to have a 72-hour PTC. Then this way, if between that 48 and 72-hour period, they got that 64-knot radius, then that sort of is consistent with everything else they're putting out, if that makes sense. So hopefully I've snapped.
Well, I was going to say, I know that's a lot of information for our viewers to take in and listen to.
But really quick, it's the wind radius, because I was just reading this. It's going out to 72 hours.
Oh, it is 72 hours.
72
okay.
hours.
Okay, so then that'll line up with their 72 if they have a PTC.
Nice.
Okay,
And I
cool.
think rest assured, if you happen to miss something in the discussion either here today, you can either rewind it, or we are going to have our annual hurricane special, which I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think it's going to air on Monday, June 2nd, since May 30th is someone's last day here, apparently. So my guess would be
How many days till then? I know Tim has a countdown. What are the days?
Oh, I'm just loving life here, and I
Tim doesn't want to let people know he actually knows the exact day.
He does. Don't pretend like you don't walk in here and mark off your calendar.
I have 4 more
4
Mondays.
weeks to go.
That's how I'm looking at it. I have 4 more Mondays. I think most of us can relate to, even if you love your job, what happens on Sunday night. So I have 4 more Mondays. So we talked. So I'm sorry, Ross. I mean, one more thing. So we know that of course we're going to try to cover everything. Ross really, and I'm excited to see it. Did some hyper-focused stuff on Waycross because they've been hit so hard over the last couple of years, especially, broke some records. I mean, Ross can talk about that. So, but Lee, you're focused on, what are you focusing on?
For the hurricane special?
Yes.
I'm going to interview a family out of Atlantic Beach, still dealing with home repairs after Irma.
Oh my,
Years.
2017.
Yes.
Wow.
Since when PTC started.
Oh,
so
wow.
yes, they are still dealing with that. So just kind of getting their advice for everyone before
That's got to be some
and
good
after.
advice. Okay, great. Fantastic. Sorry, Ross.
No,
I will pause.
I didn't want to interrupt. Let's look ahead here to tomorrow. Then we kind of talked about it a little bit. Lots of sunshine out there. Temperatures perhaps a few degrees warmer, I think. Low to mid 80s for most of us around the Jacksonville metro. Inland locations, at least mid to if not upper 80s. So a few spots going to be a little bit on the warmer side there. And that'll be an ongoing trend as we kind of head throughout the rest of the week here. Yes, fairly seasonable, but especially by Friday, really, temperatures going to get up into at least the upper 80s, flirting, pretty close to that 90-degree mark, not only on Friday, but also even into Saturday as well. So overall, dry skies here through the rest of the work week. And some good news for shrimpers up there in Fernandina Beach. How about it, Lee?
Okay, sure, I'll take it away. I just want to call out that this graphic does look crazy. I did make it, but for timing of the important events. So Thursday, 6 p.m., that's when the parade starts. So I wanted to get you your exact temperature, or, right around the temperature for 6 p.m. And I think it's going to be around 80. It will be a little bit breezy, too. Winds out of the southeast around 15 miles an hour. I don't think anyone will really complain about the breeze too much, as long as it doesn't mess with the floats or, the throws, because you got to catch all the beads and the candy that they give out. And then Friday, 9:30 is the fireworks show. Pirate Invasion starts at 9:15. But around that time, we're going to be dropping down into the middle 70s. Guys, I would love your take on this too, because you have looked at the afternoon models, but this morning when I was making this, I saw the possibility for maybe an isolated shower. I'm talking 10 to maybe 20%. But
on Friday?
On Friday evening for coastal areas and southeast Georgia, but obviously Fernandina's coastal, so I had to pop that in there, maybe an isolated shower. Same story on Saturday. I think we'll have some pop-up showers around the first coast, so that could include Fernandina Beach. 3 p.m., you're going to get your peak heating right around 83 that day. And then on Sunday, knock off a few degrees. Still breezy out there, I think, as well. And likely some more sunshine. But, guys, we could still be tracking some showers for all of the first coast over the weekend as well into Sunday.
Yeah, and for those who have not been there, no doubt about it, they have plenty of fresh shrimp and fresh seafood, but also, and with Mother's Day just around the corner, someone advised me this when I was in my 20s as a single guy, but should be thinking about my mom, which of course I was. But then also that meant maybe I could get her a good gift. So it's a juried art show. And so they have all kind of arts and crafts, right, Lee? But they have some pretty amazing art right there on Main Street. And I know that some of that has actually ended up on the walls of our house. But But
Same.
even back in the 20s, I mean, you know, when I was in my 20s, that I'd end up getting some, you know, a gift for Mom, who back then lived in Texas. And at the very least, she dug the fact that it was, Fernandina, very nice.
That's cool,
So
yeah.
at least she acted like she liked it.
That artwork is beautiful, so I'm
Yeah.
sure she liked it
Yeah.
because it's really hard to walk down through those stalls and not purchase something at every single stall. It's incredible artwork. And I don't want to like totally age you here, Tim, but yesterday you said something funny when I talked about how this is the 60th Shrimp Fest and you had been around since the teens, right?
Yes, since the 17th. Since
Wow.
the 17th.
Have you seen it change? I feel like it's more crowded now.
You know, but I don't know, because it was so crowded. It was so crowded back then. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up. So for those, because it is popular. So if you haven't been there, I would make sure you go without thinking you're in a hurry. But then also maybe go early in the mornings. I thought that always worked out because it wouldn't be as warm, and also not as crowded. Plus, anybody coming up from Jacksonville, whether you take the ferry or you're coming up A1A, things can kind of back up. So I'd give yourself plenty of time and you know, go early or maybe late on Sunday. I thought always was a better time as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. Also go hungry because, as you said, there's lots of
lots of food and
Lots of food.
and Lee, you know this, but I'll add some stuff. Is that not only is it fresh, but that food, which is fantastic seafood, of course, then is distributed by, but then the money goes to a lot of the local groups, right?
Right.
Local churches and service organizations. So you're also supporting folks out there.
That is-
And of course, you know, some of the area's best seafood restaurants are open as well.
Yeah, that's what you just brought back a lot of memories because obviously as a kid I had to help my dad and granddad with the church
Oh.
booth, and then in high school I was there for the cheerleading booth as well, and then you have your clubs and stuff like that. So just gotta say the cheerleaders, the lemonade and the funnel cakes there. If you don't like seafood, you
Yeah.
get some good just straight up fair food too. All right, Ross, I'll give you the floor again for the forecast. That's why people are here.
You guys are
right?
acting like I'm in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. No, I think that's going to be a great event starting on Thursday, right, Lee?
Yes, Thursday,
then-
6 o'clock for the parade.
And some people might ask why 8 flags, and maybe sometime this week we can get into why it's the Isle of 8 Flags Shrimp Fest. It is kind of interesting. But
I will
yeah.
bring my notes tomorrow.
we'll leave that alone. quiz me to see if I can get close first,
That's going to be awesome.
and then we'll
Let's
go
do
from
it
there.
tomorrow.
But yeah, there's some tough ones in there.
Something to look forward and head to for tomorrow then. No, I did just want to show kind of the rain chances because the weekend is when we will start to see some of those scatter showers, a few thunderstorms. Lee kind of touched on that the chances for Fernandina Beach are pretty low. Inland areas might see a little bit more. And it's all going to kind of be coming from a big front that's slowly just going to make its way southward down toward us. So actually bringing a very large stretch of severe weather to a pretty large portion of the country here
Yeah,
today. So
wow.
from Buffalo to the western sides of Pittsburgh, Moon Township, Columbus saw some storms, Cincinnati, and then now down.
Hold it, just south of Cleveland? Is that right? The front's just south of Cleveland?
Yes, yeah.
So Cleveland, so basically it looks like the severe weather. So Cleveland won't have severe weather. We can be definitive about that, right?
Cleveland won't have severe weather.
Okay.
It's like
now,
moving
is
through
that
like
similar to Cleveland will not trade their top draft away? Is that similar situation? What?
I'm not getting dragged
I
into
was
this.
wondering where you were going
So
with
was
that.
I.
That makes sense.
Ross is our sports expert,
Whatever.
and he was pretty definitive that.
I was surprised. Well, the Cleveland Browns will, I guess, always be the Cleveland Browns. They've got.
That's why Ross is in weather.
Oh.
Oh,
Andy's speaking up.
Okay, Andy.
Okay. How to get that in before next year's draft at some
Okay.
point somehow.
You can't win them all. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're wrong.
Now
Whether-
that's some serious stuff right there. Wow. East of St. Louis, north of Paducah. Wow.
Yeah, so I think I do have a camera of St. Louis.
Okay.
It's not as great now, but the clouds kind of behind the Gateway Arch were really, really dark about 15, 20 minutes ago. So yeah, big strong storm system kind of moving through the Mississippi River Valley and that central part of the country. The southern plains, Texas, Oklahoma, also seeing some rain and storms. So this is going to continue to be kind of an event here throughout the remainder of this afternoon and into this evening, but also the amount of rain.
Wow.
I popped this up. This is kind of from Wichita Falls up through Oklahoma City and then the Tulsa area. 2 to 4 inches of rain with locally higher amounts, upwards of about 6 inches, which I know here on the First Coast we can sometimes see, rain 1, 2, 3 inches in a summertime thunderstorm. But they've got that red dirt out there in Texas and Oklahoma. So when it rains, it does not kind of filter down through.
Yeah.
It just sits. So things flood much easier across that part of the country. And as you can see here, over the next 7 days, over 5 inches of rain
Wow.
for a lot of folks, getting really even close to about 7, 8, 9 inches.
Wow. I know there are people here saying we want that rain, but
Yeah.
not too much of a good thing over there.
Yeah, and we could certainly use the rain, Lee.
Right.
Over the next 7 days, not a whole lot really on the way. It's going to really hold off until this coming weekend. So this is kind of what we're looking at here. There's the front making its way across the central part of the country. Looks like a bit of a cutoff low kind of forms and retrogrades back off to the west a little bit, Tim.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting long term.
Yeah.
But I think initially on Saturday it's going to be, is there enough moisture and instability for thunderstorms? So notice, folks, we're going for about 60% of us to have thunderstorms on Saturday, probably more later versus earlier, right? And then Sunday and Monday, going to be some showers around. Even that forecast has adjusted a little bit since yesterday, and that positioning of that cutoff is going to be very interesting. Yesterday it looked like it was going to build more toward us and really get us in the dry air. Now maybe retrograding more west, which would mean we'd have more of a southwest flow, so more moisture. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to tweak that, especially Sunday through Tuesday part of the outlook.
Because those rain chances have upped and increased quite a bit from what we had yesterday, right?
Yeah. So more shall be revealed, as us meteorologists say.
As will the test on the Fernandina Beach.
The Isle of 8 Flags.
What are the 8 flags? No one give him the answer. Don't look it up.
I'm trying to snap right now on that. But yeah, there's some pretty interesting history. You have some wild people who used to live in Fernandina, or maybe they still live there.
They still do.
Lee. Okay.
Well, that test will be on the way tomorrow. For now, though, enjoy your Tuesday. Take care.